Hi, I'm Nora St. John with Balanced Body, and today I'm going to show you how to use the universal safety strap on each of the reformers. We'll go through the A1 with the tower, the A2 tower, we'll go through the springboard, and also the wooden reformers, both the reformer trap combination and the Cadillac, and also the clinical and the wooden reformer with tower. Each of them can require just a slight adjustment in terms of how you use the safety strap, and we'll go through each of those one after the other. Let's get started. We'll start here with the A1, the original Allegro. So the main purpose of the safety strap is to provide support and safety when the push-through bar is sprung from the bottom. So here we have the push-through bar. Here we have a spring from the bottom. I'm using a long yellow spring. Now, what you want to make sure of with the safety strap is that if your client is lying underneath this bar, for example, if they're in a position like this, so the reverse position to do footwork in or to do tower work from, you want to make sure that if their feet slip off that bar, that the bar won't be able to hit them in the shins. So on the Allegro 1, using this middle eye bolt or this middle loop will give you a good height for that. Now, if for some reason you wanted to bring it down lower, maybe your client is very small, maybe you want to work on a different range of motion, here's your best bet for that. You can take this and simply loop it around and attach it into the lower loop. If you want to make it just a little bit higher, you just loop it around again. The nice thing actually about that loop is it keeps it more secure on the push-through bar, so it's not going to slide side to side when you lose the tension on it. So those are the preferred loops for the Allegro 1, the original Allegro. For most clients, in most situations where the feet are on the bar, you use the middle loop. If you want it to get a little lower, you can simply wrap it around the push-through bar and use the lower loop. So that is how you would use the universal safety strap on the A1 tower. All right, now we're moving on to the Allegro 2 tower and how to use the universal safety strap on this tower. It's actually quite similar to the Allegro 1, meaning that when you're putting the safety strap on, you're generally going to use that middle loop. And that will give you a good height, again, for somebody who is, if you're bottom sprung, somebody who's coming underneath you, underneath the spring. That should give some good leg clearance for most people. Notice this is a little closer than it was on the A1. So if you need to make this a little bit higher, you can, just like we did on the A1, but now we're doing it from the middle loop. Loop that around once. That'll bring that whole push-through bar a little bit higher, giving you more clearance for safety for the legs in that position. Again, if you want to make it shorter, you can. If you want to make it higher, you can. But generally, you can use your middle loop and just make it a little shorter or a little longer, depending on the needs of your client. There is the universal safety strap on the A2. Use the safety strap on the springboard is very similar to what we just did with a couple of exceptions. So here we have a different attachment point for the top of the safety strap, which is a carabiner attached to this outside eye bolt, either side, whichever you prefer. Then from here, that means you have a longer strap, right? It's not going around the top of the machine. Now this is going to go, again, around the strap, and generally you'll be around the middle loop again. But there's some exceptions to that on the springboard. The first thing is where the springboard is attached on the wall. Some people attach it lower or higher on the wall depending on baseboards and other kinds of things. So that can make a significant difference in how high this push-through bar is from the floor. Or if you're using one of the raised mats, that adds 6 inches to the height of the floor, and that will significantly change where this goes. The adjustments are the same, however. This would be a good basic beginning position to go into. If you need to make it higher, you simply loop it around. If you need to make it lower, you can move to the lower loop, and then if you need to make it not quite that low, you can always loop it around and put it in the lower loop. If for some reason you need it higher, you can always take it up to the higher loop. So again, there is our universal safety strap on the springboard. And just remember that that just depends on where your springboard is set up and what you're laying on to start with. Moving on to the universal safety strap on some of the wooden equipment. Here I am at the Cadillac, also known as the Trapeze Table. And here we have the push-through bar in its highest position. And in testing this, it doesn't really matter whether it's in the highest position or the lowest position in terms of how you use the safety strap, just so you know. From here, again, you can go to the middle position, and that is going to be too low. So if you go to the middle position, you'll find that you are too low. So you'll want to, just to, again, measure that. It's going to whack me in the knees. So you'll want to, if you're using the middle position, take it up a notch. So just do one circle or 2 loops if you've got a particularly long-legged client, and bring it back through there. And I'm taking it through the back of the loop. You can do the back of the loop or the front of the loop. They're both equally effective. Just make sure it's got a nice solid seat. Now, if you wanted to really make sure that everything is secure here, and you want to make sure it's in no way going to ever get close to the client, then you are welcome to take it up to the highest loop. And that will give you a lot of clearance here, but still provide you with a nice deep amount of hip flexion, so you'll still have a good range of motion for the exercises that you might be doing here, such as tower, or reverse tower, and footwork. All right, so that is how this would work on both the Cadillac and also on the Reformer trap combination. And again, regardless of whether the push-through bar is in the high, the middle, or the low position, you can still use either the middle position, looped around, so it's pulled up a little bit, either looped around once or twice, depending on the height of the client, or even the high position. All right, let's go on to the studio reformer and the clinical reformer. Now we're looking at the universal safety strap on our wooden studio reformer with tower, and also on the clinical with the tower. Now both of these are very similar in terms of their geometry. So for these 2 pieces of equipment, you'll take your push-through bar, come here, and I would start as your default up in the high position. If you'll notice here, if I'm sprung from the bottom, that will give me good clearance between the knees and the bar in either this position or the other position. And again, still good range in hip flexion and knee flexion there. And if I go lower, you really will start to get into a little bit of a danger range here. So if you want to go lower, somebody's not very long-legged or very small, I would take the middle position, but I would loop this around a couple of times. And that will still give you some tension on your long spring and provide enough height here for somebody with shorter legs to still have some safety. So there is the wooden studio reformer with tower and the clinical with tower. With both of those, the default would be the highest position or a double wrap on the middle position. Thanks.